Night settles over the scaffold like a shroud. The torches crackle, the crowd whispers, and a single man trembles. His wrists are tied, his ankles spread apart, wooden blocks beneath each limb, like crude, sacrificial altars. He is not dead yet, but his body is already being measured for death. The executioner steps closer, heavy boots crushing gravel, a silhouette carved from shadow and smoke. In his hands, a hammer, thick as a blacksmith's sin. The condemned tries to swallow, but the fear in his throat refuses to go down. He looks up. Above him, a great wooden wheel, a cartwheel stolen from fate itself, its rim polished by centuries of broken bones. Soon, it will become his prison, his trophy, his cross. The executioner lifts the hammer to the sky. The world freezes. Then, crack. A sound no human soul deserves to hear from their own body. The shin bursts, bone fragments scrape torn flesh. A scream erupts, but the crowd does not flinch. They came expecting music. Pain is the orchestra tonight. Crack. The other leg. The bones crumble like chalk beneath the storm of iron. His limbs bend, grotesque, unnatural, twisting the human form into a question mark, a question only death can answer. Breath trembles in his chest, tears burn his eyes, but this is only the overture. The wheel lowers, hands lift his broken body, gently, almost lovingly. They lay him across the spokes, arms stretched wide, and the executioner ties him down with ropes soaked in blood from those before him. He tries to speak, to beg, to pray, but his voice breaks, like everything else. The wheel rises, high, swinging like a pendulum between earth and sky. Below him, faces blur into a single monstrous audience. Above him, the stars look away. His heart beats, but his bones cannot follow. Death will not come yet. Here, dying is not the punishment. The waiting is. And as the wind turns the wheel ever so slightly, he realizes something far worse. This is only the beginning. The hammer is coming back. Long before the wheel touched flesh, fear controlled kingdoms. Rulers knew something brutal. Death alone is not enough to keep order, but suffering, long, visible, unforgettable, could build empires. In medieval Europe, crime was not a mistake. It was a sin against the world, and sin demanded spectacle. From the 13th century onward, a new philosophy of justice rose like a storm. If a man dared to challenge the crown, the church, or the fragile order of life, his punishment must carve fear into the memory of every witness. The wheel became that fear. It started in Germany, courts drafting cold mathematical instructions: how many bones to break, in what order, how long the condemned should scream before mercy visited. 12 strikes for a thief, 30 for a murderer, 40 for those the world wanted erased. The goal was precision, a performance, execution as choreography. The condemned was laid on the ground, blocks arranged beneath each limb, turning arms and legs into stretched bridges of terror. Then the hammer descended, not to kill, not yet, but to sculpt the body into a new, shattered form.
a form the wheel could claim. Some victims received the coup de grace, a final blow to the chest or throat, granting death as a last kindness. Others were lifted alive and left to the mercy of sunlight, rain, and hungry birds. In France, the wheel itself turned between blows, a slow rotation of agony. Executioners aimed the hammer so bone broke cleanly between spokes. It was art, horrifying art. People gathered from miles away, not merely to witness justice, but to confront their own darkest curiosity. How long can a human being survive once their skeleton is no longer inside them, but around them? Some lasted hours, some days. Their contorted bodies stood like grim signposts, bent into shapes no saint could recognize. Arms twisted like ropes, spines coiled into letters of a language spoken only by the dying. Along the roadside, at city gates, near crossroads where life and death shook hands, crows learned the schedule of justice. Children grew up knowing that crime did not bring a quick end, but a lingering lesson. One man, Peter Nears, a bandit whispered to practice dark magic, endured 42 bone-shattering blows, 42 cracks of thunder, 42 reasons for the world to fear his fate. His severed head was the mercy, his body the warning. And still, the wheel spread. Hungarian plains, Italian marketplaces, Spanish strongholds. Wherever kings felt threatened, the wheel was built. Because power is not truly power until it forces the heart to keep beating long after hope has died. By the 19th century, growing voices called it barbaric. Bavaria banned it first, Prussia followed. The wheel vanished from law, but not from memory. The mere thought of it still twists the spine, still steals breath, still whispers through history. Bones break, bodies fail, but fear lasts forever. And now, as we return to our condemned man spinning gently against the night, the wheel begins its true work. The hammer lifts one more time. What comes next is agony, slowed to the speed of eternity.
It was once a symbol of harvest, a simple cartwheel meant to carry wheat and bread and all the quiet blessings of life. Somewhere, someone decided it could carry death just as well. The wheel used for braking was not the fragile circle that rolled along muddy paths. No, it was reforged for cruelty. A perfect circle of oak, thick spokes rising like ribs from a spine. Iron studs hammered along the rim, not for decoration, but domination. The diameter? Large enough to stretch the human body into its longest, most helpless silhouette. Some wheels towered over grown men. Their shadows fell like gravestones in the morning light. Every spoke was a weapon, every gap between them a place where bone could fold. It did not kill, it corrected, twisting the human form back into clay, raw and breakable. The executioner understood the physics well. The body is strong when supported. It becomes fragile when suspended. So the condemned was tied loosely, just enough ropes to lift them, but never enough to protect a limb. One tug on the wheel, and gravity itself joined the act of breaking.
The wooden blocks placed beneath arms and legs served one purpose: elevation. To raise bone above flesh like a target on display, so the hammer could find its path cleanly. Crack. Strike the shin first. The tendon snaps like a bowstring pulled too far. Crack. The forearm. A bloom of agony blossoms beneath the skin. The wheel rotates, a slow, deliberate spin, adjusting angles so every blow shatters a new section of the skeleton. The body becomes a map, and the executioner traces each road with iron certainty. When the breaking is done, the body is no longer body. It is rope and pulp and trembling ruin. This is when the wheel transforms from instrument to monument. The executioner raises it upright. The condemned hangs like a grotesque marionette, each breath a rebellion. Sometimes the wheel was mounted on a stake, a human sundial, forced to count hours of suffering by the movement of the sun. Vultures perched nearby. Flies claimed the wounds. The wind swung the corpse like a pendulum marking time. A knight, once armored in pride, now naked in misery. A thief, once quick with his hands, now unable to lift a single finger. A rebel, once loud with defiance, now silent but still breathing. The wheel demanded patience. It was a slow eater. It devoured the living millimeter by millimeter. And it was versatile in horror. Sometimes a mercy stroke came at the end, a final smash to the chest, sending ribs into lungs, blunt execution disguised as compassion. Other times, the wheel itself finished the job. Blood loss, thirst, organs collapsing within their broken cage. The cruelest deaths were quiet ones. No last scream, only a slow expansion of the eyes as the world turned upside down and slipped away. The wheel was not just a device. It was a philosophy. It believed pain should have shape, terror should have design, death should be earned. And every spectator who watched learned the lesson carved into wood. This is what happens when you defy power. Because bones can break, but authority must never. Yet while the wheel was a masterpiece of structural torment, its true horror was not the wood. It was what happened to a soul that realized it could not die fast enough. And this is where our condemned man now finds himself, living in the body that no longer belongs to him. He still breathes, and the hammer is still waiting.
Pain arrives in waves, but on the wheel it becomes a tide, rising, relentless, infinite. The first hour is shock. The mind tries to deny what the bones already know. Limbs reduced to fragments, flesh draped over failure. He tries to move. The attempt alone sends lightning screaming through every nerve. His body twists, but only in the direction the wheel demands. The crowd watches, children on their fathers' shoulders, merchants holding bread, priests pretending this is salvation. Some look away quickly, but still listen, because the breaking has its own music. Birds circle above. They know this ritual well. They wait,
so patiently. The executioner checks the ropes. He wants his craft respected. Art must endure long enough to be admired. Then another blow. Crack. This one to the upper arm. The humerus shatters. The bone separates like a snapped mast on a sinking ship. The victim gasps, not for air, but for release. He begs, not for mercy, but for death. But mercy has not been invited today, and death is a slow walker. His thoughts scatter. Fragments of childhood, face of a mother, voice of a lost friend. Memories become shields he tries to hide behind, but pain pierces everything. Hours pass. The sun climbs. Sweat runs into blood, blood into dust. Flies arrive, a buzzing crown of humiliation. They feast on torn skin, sip from the warmth of fresh suffering. His breathing grows shallow. Every inhale stabs. His ribs are splintered, daggers pointed inward. He tries to cry, but tears do not save, and even his sobs have edges. Night comes. The crowd leaves. Justice is satisfied, but the wheel hungers still. The cold sets in. Shake, tremble, muscles spasm, folding broken bones deeper into flesh. A groan forces its way up his throat. It doesn't sound human anymore. The stars witness everything, but offer nothing. He stares into the darkness below his feet, hears distant dogs, feels his consciousness flicker like a candle in the wind. Then a new terror rises. He wakes again. He had drifted, but his body refused to die while he slept. The wheel ensures awareness. It forces its victims to feel every moment twice. Bones shift during the night, gravity pulling them into grotesque rearrangements. Sometimes the skin tears open and bone peeks through. Sometimes the heart beats so hard it bruises itself against its own cage. Sometimes the victim forgets how to scream. By the second day, delirium blooms. The mind tries to escape the skull. Hallucinations dance like phantoms. He sees people below, faces he once loved, now twisted by shadow. He thinks he hears water, but it's blood dripping from his own elbow. Crows land nearby. One hops closer, tilts its head. It knows a feast when it sees one. A single peck, sharp, casual. The victim tries to jerk away, but the wheel allows only suffering, never escape. The bird pulls something soft from the torn limb, a small victory. The man's scream breaks the night again. It echoes between buildings. Strangers pretend they don't hear. Eventually, his voice fractures, just like everything else. The final blow may come whenever the executioner chooses, or thirst may finish the job, or the heart, tired of beating inside a cage of pain. No one truly knows the worst moment the wheel offers. It could be the first hammer strike, or the last breath. But it is always the moment an innocent part of the mind whispers, "What if I deserve this?" The wheel does not just break bodies, it breaks belief. And when belief collapses, the soul follows. Soon, even death will feel like a mercy too generous to expect.